Hello, magical hands. Welcome to the channel. If it's your first time, thank you for joining the family. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. This tutorial is going to be a full tutorial, so make sure to subscribe, make sure to like, make sure to share. And without any further ado, let's get into the video proper. We are going to draft the basic bodies of a dress. From the top part of the pattern paper, I marked 8 inches, which is my shoulder measurement divided by 2. Right on that point, I came down by 1 inch, which will enable me get the shoulder slope. From that point again, I came down by 8 inches, and that is my round armhole measurement divided by 2. I'll connect those 2 points together as seen, and I'll extend to the right side. Next, I'll find the midpoint of that length, which is 8 inches. The midpoint is 4 inches, and at that point, I'll go inwards by half an inch. That is going to enable me curve my armhole properly. So I'll go ahead with my marker and I'll draw out my armhole curve. Next, I marked from my shoulder to my bust point, which is 11 inches. I'll draw a straight line across that point. The next line will be from my shoulder to my under bust, which is 14.5 inches. I'll draw a straight line across that point. The next line will be from my shoulder to my half length, which I used 19 inches. Usually I would use 18 inches, but I wanted to use 19 inches because I wanted this to have a bit of length. For the chest line, from my bust point, I'm going to mark 4 inches upwards. That is how high I want the chest line to be. But if you are not busty, just go ahead and extend out your armhole line forward. Let's say if your bust is 34, 35 below, you go ahead and extend the armhole line. But if you are busty like myself, I am bust 40, make sure to mark 4 inches upwards. But if you are bustier, you can add 5, you can make it 5 inches to 6 inches thereabouts. So I'll draw a straight line across that point. I'll mark what I have from the shoulder to that chest line, and you'll see that it is 7 inches. So for those of you that like to use the term subtract, this is what I subtracted. I subtracted 7 inches from this, meaning my blouse will start from 7 inches below. Next thing, I'm going to mark my apex measurement, which is my nipple to nipple measurement on all those lines that I have created. Mind you, from that chest line upwards will not be needed. So just mark your apex measurements on all these lines and then connect them with a straight line as seen. So at that point of the center front, I'm just going to give this a little bit of curve. You can see that the neckline of this blouse is not exactly sweetheart and it's not exactly four corner. So I'll just give it that little curve so it can look a bit like the picture. So I came down by 1 inch at that point, and I'll go ahead with my marker and connect as seen. You will see that I shaded the bust point very well because that is going to be our focus point. So I'll start taking my dart from the under bust. I'll mark half an inch apart from the apex measurement. So this dart I'm going to take it on all the points, including the chest line, except for the bust points that I did a dot on. So I'll mark the apex line, I'll connect them together as seen, and then I'm going to connect it to meet the bust point. So I'm currently using my pencil. I'll still go in with my marker to make sure it is very, very visible. But just connect all this half an inch apart to meet the bust point. So your dart should look like this. So just take half an inch apart, even if you are busty. And then from that chest line, I'll come inwards by half an inch. So by the time I open it on fold, it's going to be on a full 1 inch. So I'll use my curve ruler as a guide to curve from that bust point to meet the half an inch apart on the apex line on the under bust. I hope I'm not using too much terms. Just curve them to meet at that point as seen. And then that is going to be for the left curve. To get the second cup, I will mark what I have on the bust point line. That is from the bust point to that curved side. Mark what we have in that area, which I have 3.5 inches there. And then I'm going to come to this other side, whatever I have on that side. While I'm marking it on the right side, make sure to add half an inch. So I'm going to mark 4 inches there. So I'm going to use that as a guide to curve to meet the under bust line, just as I did to the other side. I'll just use that as a guide to do my curve, and once I get to that point, I will mark it very straight upwards. I'll start marking my round bodice measurement starting from the bust point, I'm going to mark my round bust measurement. I'll divide it by 4. Whatever I have, I'll mark on that point. Don't add any sewing allowance. My round under bust measurement, I'll do the same thing. But I'll make sure to replace what I have in that dart space because we're going to be cutting out that dart. So just make sure to you replace what we have in that dart space. Likewise to the half length, I'll do the same thing as well. So I'll go ahead and connect these lines together as seen, and then from the bust point I'll just extend it upwards to the armhole line. So now we are going to mark like the straps. This is going to be like the band for the sleeves. So this is, you can actually cut this joint to your corset, but from the picture I noticed it was cut differently, but I'll be cutting the back piece joined together. So I just marked 2 inches all round at that point. Because of the way the armhole is curved, the sleeve would definitely be curved. So just mark 2 inches or those points. 2 inches is enough for the band of the sleeve or the straps. So just connect that together, and I'll be cutting it separately because just like the picture it was cut separately. So this brings us to everything for the front piece. I'll go ahead and cut this out. While cutting this, I first of all took out the parts that will not be needed because I really want you guys to be carried along in this tutorial. Now that I've taken that out, this is the part that will be needed except for the dart. But I'm going to show you guys how I'll be splitting all of this into 3 pieces. Part will be the straps or the band for the sleeve like I earlier explained. That is going to be one. And then the second part will be the cups. Also, if you notice I did a mistake while cutting the cups, I was supposed to cut it in that straight form, but I went ahead to cut it in from that slanted side. But it doesn't matter, guys. If you notice, that was how I actually worked with it and it went well. So I'll cut the cups, and then I will, because of the darts, the cups will be split into two, one for the left and one for the right. And as you know, the one on the right side is usually like the bigger one, the one that carries more weight of the breast. So the cups will be the like two, and then the belt of this is going to be the third part. So just cut out the dart, and that will be everything. Also, this is the fabric that I'm using, and this lace already has a lining attached to it. It also has like taffeta before the lining, but I'll not be making use of the taffeta fabric because I hate taffeta fabric. So I'm just going to first of all dismantle everything, and I'll quickly cut out my front pieces on this. So if you notice, this has like a bossier. I wanted to use a bossier, but it was not my size at all. It was very small, so that's why I had to draft a fresh pattern paper also to teach you guys here on YouTube how to even draft it from scratch. Let's say if you don't even have a leftover dress that you want to turn into something. So I'll just go ahead and split this. That's just so you guys can understand. In case you're seeing my fabric looking a certain type of way, this is where it's coming from. This is the dress we are transforming. For the front piece, I'm going to cut it on fold. That is the center front. I'll cut it on fold, but I'll cut the side front on in two separate pieces. Make sure to add your sewing allowance while you're cutting this, and then I'll also cut the cups. I'll quickly cut all of this so that I don't want to confuse you guys. I just really want to carry you guys step by step, and then I'll go ahead to cut the back piece. So for the back piece, I'm using the other side of the pattern paper after I cut out the front. You can still see some of the lines are showing. First thing I did was to mark my zip allowance, which I used 1 inch. Just draw a straight line across downwards. And then I'll quickly draft out the basic bodies of a dress. This is the same thing we did for the front piece. The only difference is the zip allowance and the armhole curve. We did not go in by half an inch before curving the armhole. So I just made sure to mark everything. You can see that the line still matches with the lines of the other one. So now that I'm done marking the basic bodies, I'm going to extend the armhole line forward. The armhole line is going to be like the chest line of the back, but just that it's going to be lower. So I mark from the shoulder to that part, I have like 9 inches. That is the part that I subtracted for it. So the back piece is literally going to start from that chest line downwards. Next, I started marking my apex measurements, which is my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. I marked it on all the points. Mind you, we are going to start marking from your zip allowance. That is where your zip allowance starts from.
not from the back. So connect the apex measurements together with a straight line so that we can take out the dart. For the dart, at the half length line, I will mark half an inch apart from the apex measurement. Likewise to the bust point line, I marked half an inch apart from the apex measurement. So I'm going to connect them as seen in a straight line, and then I'll connect it in a slanted form to meet the base of the blouse and also to meet the top part of the blouse. So your dart should look something like this. Now, from the shoulder line, I'm still going to mark the band, but just as this time around, I'm not going to cut it separately. I'm just going to cut it joint because from the picture, I didn't see what the back looks like. So I just decided to cut it joint together. I'll do the same thing I did to the front piece. I just marked 2 inches for the band because it definitely has to align on the shoulder line. So I'll just connect it downwards straight. I didn't curve it in. I just connected it down so that it will be straight like in a four corner, and then I can start marking my round bodice measurements. So while I'm marking my round bodice measurements, I'm going to replace what I have in the dart after I mark my main bodice measurement. So just go ahead and do this. Connect all the lines together as seen and extend it to the armhole line. Okay, we are not supposed to even take a round bodice measurement on the chest line, so just extend it into your armhole measurement, and this is going to be the back piece. So after removing the dart, you see that my back piece is in two separate pieces. So I'm going to quickly transfer this to my fabrics, both of them, and then we'll move to the sewing part. Starting with the front pieces, I'm going to place the pattern so you can see. Remember how we cut them? So I'm just going to place them as in we cut the center front of fold and we cut the side front into separate piece, and also these are the lining pieces. So I'm going to place them on each other as seen, and I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and sew as indicated. I also do same thing to the lining as well. After sewing, this is what it looks like. I have joined the belt to become one whole piece. The next is the cups. Remember I cut all the cups in two separate pieces, and these are the lining pieces as well. So the way the pattern papers were placed while we cut the pattern paper, just as you can see, that is how we are going to sew it. Okay, we are going to place the smaller cup on the bigger cup, and then we'll take it to the sewing machine and sew. After sewing the cups, I'm going to now attach these straps that we did. I went ahead to turn the straps on my sewing machine, and the mistake I made was to turn the armhole side, but I'm going to still loosen that up. So it's supposed to be attached like this, so I'm just going to place it like this, place it inwards, and then I'm going to use the lining to turn the top part of the cups. Okay, so just sew around that part. After turning it, I'm going to now start inserting my cups. The process I'm going to use to insert this cup is to just fix it in and close both the lining and the main fabric. I'm just going to sew both the lining and main fabric all round so that the cups can be sewn inwards. So I'll just take this to my sewing machine to show you guys clearly. So this is what I talked about. Just fix it in and sew so that the cups can be inside. Don't sew the cups, let the cups be inside, and that's why you are supposed to add allowance. Also, like I said, I went ahead to lose that side, that armhole side, because that's the side I will be attaching the sleeve to. So that's just a close view of what I did. So this was the first mistake I made. I'm just going to lose that whole part and attach it so that it is close to the edge of that part, just the same way the other one is. So this is what the both cups look like. It looks really beautiful. Now I'm going to start attaching the cups to the under belt. Almost all the picture inspiration I saw, I noticed that the lining was short at the under corset part. I don't know if this will take effect considering the type of fabric I am using, but go ahead and reduce your lining just exactly the way you can see me reducing mine. So once I reduce it, I'm going to first of all hem the lining. I'll take it to my sewing machine and hem, just do a quick neat hem and be back. After hemming, this is what it looks like, and then I'm going to now tape turn this I'm only going to sew only that front piece, like that
After
center
I was
front
done
and the
sewing
back.
that center front, this is what it looks like. So I'm just going to flip this over now to the right face. And after I flip this over to the right face, I'll go ahead and attach my cups. Okay, I'm not going to turn the cups. I'm going to show you guys how to get a neat finishing without turning the cups. So I'll attach the cups as seen, just match all round. So after joining the cups, if you want your sewing lines not to show, just go ahead with a matching bias and then use it to cover up the sewing lines. Use it to like sew on the other side. That is, the sewing lines will be showing around the bust round. But I didn't do that, but that's just to show you guys how to do it. Now I'm going to now join the front pieces to the back piece. I will sew only the side seams. I will not join the shoulders here. The shoulders is going to be like one of the last things I'll do. So just take this to your sewing machine and sew up the allowance that you added for your side seam allowance. So we're just going to do that now. After joining it, this is what it looks like. Now we're going to start, we'll move over to the lower part, which is the skirt. So I went ahead to cut out my lining. You can see that this lining is joined. It has like some sewing lines. I went ahead to join it so it can give me like a perfect square, because we are going to cut a round circle for the skirt. So first of all, I folded my square into two equal parts, and then I folded it again into another two equal parts, and then the lower side of it, which is the base, I'm just going to curve that area so that by the time I open this up, I'll have like a full circle. I marked the length of one of the sides and I noticed it was 17 inches. So it means I'm going to cut this all round in 17 inches. I'm going to use my tape as a guide because I want the circle to be at least perfect, if not totally perfect, but it should be good. When I open this up, you will see that it is a full circle. This is what the flay of this is going to be like. This is the lining, and this lining flay is going to help me get a very good volume of the pleat I'm going to make. Also, you can see that the fabric I'm using is an old dress, so my fabric amount is kind of limited considering that this dress is already sewn. Now I'm going to mark the waistline. I'll fold it back and I'll mark 4 inches all round at the top part. That is going to be the waistline. So if you mark 4 inches, 3 inches and it's not enough, try it on the waistline of your blouse and see if it's not equal, then go ahead and reduce again. So now that I've cut that circle, I'm going to open up one of the sides of this. That side is now going to be like for the zip allowance side. So I just split open one of the sides. You can see there was a sewing line there. So I'm going to bring out my top part and I'll make sure that the waistline of my top part and the waistline of this aligns properly. And it was actually equal because everything aligned properly. So now that we have the lining, we are going to take this to the sewing machine and join it. We are going to join it such that the rough edges is going to face the right face. After sewing, this is what it looks like. So now I'm going to take out the scarf of this and I'm going to cut a very long strap. Okay, I didn't use any measurements, and also since my fabric was limited, I decided to use this method and you can see the result. You can see how beautiful it looked at the end. Just a close view of how you will attach it. Remember that the rough edges is facing the right face, so we are now going to pleat this on this from the top so that the rough edges is not showing on either the good face or the bad face. It is rather going to be in between them. I know my camera may not be rightly placed or my hand was blocking it, but I really did try my best. So after I placed it the way I showed you guys, I'm going to start pleating this. Okay, for the first layer of pleats, which is this, I took my time to pleat it very well because that's going to be like the look of the skirt. Okay, that's going to be like the front, the cover of the skirt. So it is very important that you pleat plenty on this first step so that it will give your skirt that beautiful look. That is if you're going to pleat. But if you don't want to pleat, you can draw gathers and use gathers. But one thing I will assure you of is the fact that gathers consume more fabric. I mean, to get like a good volume more than pleats. Also, I was able to get a good volume because of the choice of the type of fabric I use. Since it is a lace, it stands on its own. So this is the process, guys. Just continue this process, and immediately after I join it, this is what it looks like. So you will see that it is almost the same length with the lining, which is not intentional. I actually didn't measure the length of this. I just went ahead to attach. So now I'm going to go ahead with my tape and I'm going to mark the length that I want it to be in okay, because this is really too long for the first step. And then I ended up marking 6 inches, okay. So I took my time to cut this out and make sure that everything was straight and fine. I marked it 6 inches. So this is what it looks like at this point. You can see the lining clearly. Now I'm going to raise this up and I'm going to mark where I'll be sewing the second step of this pleat. So the distance between the first and the second pleat will be 3 inches, okay. So I took my time to chalk this down on the lining so that I can sew on it accurately, okay. So just take your time to mark 3 inches from the first step on the lining. And then this is how I'm going to be sewing this. I'm going to pleat it on it. I'm going to match, okay? I'm going to sew on it. Before I take it to my sewing machine to sew, I marked the length of this one. As you can see, I folded everything up so I can cut it accurately. And for the length of the second piece, I used 9 inches, okay? That is the length of the pleat of the second flay, sorry. I used 9 inches. So the first one, I used 6 inches. The second one, I used 9 inches. So I'm going to pleat it on it as seen, okay? Like I said, you're just going to sew on the lining this time around. So at the back face, the sewing lines will only appear. So one thing you will notice is because of the way I cut the lining in a full flay, even if your pleat on this second one and the third one is not much, it doesn't matter because we've already added a lot of pleat volume to the first one, and because of the flay effect of the lining, this dress is still going to give what it's supposed to give. I don't know if you understand, but if you follow this tutorial, you are likely to get exactly the results that you are going to get exactly the results that I got. So just take your time to do this well. And because of the flare, you notice that the amount of fabric you use to pleat the first one will be smaller than the amount of fabric you will need for the second and third flay or third pleating, which is because of the fullness of the fabric, okay. As it goes down, it gets wider. So just take your time to sew this and then we'll move to the third flay. So after joining both the first and second flay, you will see this is what it looks like, okay? Everything is making sense, everything is accurate. Now we'll move over to the third flay. So for the length, I'm going to mark 4 inches, okay? That's going to be the space between the first and the second one. And I'm marking 4 inches because I actually want the length of this to be a bit long. And I noticed that because I used 3 inches space for the first and second one, this might be a very very short, so I just marked 4 inches. Also because the second flay is going to be covering it, so just go ahead and mark 4 inches, or even the same 3 inches that I used earlier. So it's just like the same thing we did to the first one. We are going to repeat the same process. We are going to pleat on this third line as well. After the third pleat, you can see what the dress looks like. The dress really looks beautiful. It is beginning to take shape. It's beginning to look like the picture in the thumbnail. Also, I'm going to raise each of the flay up so you can see what I said by that is, the more you go down, the more the flay gets bigger. So this is what the dress looks like. Now I'm going to place this as seen, and I'm going to quickly sew the zip allowance, okay. I'm going to sew the lower bodice. I'm going to join the shoulders together, and this is bringing us to the end of the video. After joining it together, this is what it looks like. So guys, we've come to the end of this video. Before I fixed the sleeve of this, I went ahead to try it on, and it was giving what it was giving. So this is what it looked like while I tried it on. I noticed that the third flay was somehow, it was not equal, but I later worked on that. I trimmed it all equal, but this is what it looks like, guys. It is very very lovely, and I'm going to fix the sleeve, and once I fix the sleeve, that will bring us to the end of this tutorial. I hope you learned something new. If you did, please help us share this video because it will help YouTube recommend the channel to other people as well. Please don't forget to hit on the like button, don't forget to subscribe, and that being said, see you guys in my next video. In my next video, I'm going to be uploading how I made the puff sleeve. So if you want to see that, if you want to learn how to make a puff sleeve, make sure to subscribe so you and